I'm back on the allotment today and I thought you might like to join me to harvest my apples because it's mid-September now, which is when my apple tree is always ready, and it's starting to feel really autumnal now. The leaves aren't quite changing just yet. I've got my little helper with me as well, so it might take a little bit more time to harvest them than usual, but it's really starting to feel quite autumnal. The air is getting a little bit crisp, and today it's actually a little bit overcast. Sometimes the sun comes out, but there is a bit of threat of rain as well. Today I am harvesting my apples using these nifty little baskets that I got from IKEA, and I'll link them down below if you're interested in what their name is, because I probably won't be able to pronounce it anyway. But I find them really useful around the house and also for harvesting some of my goodies. It started to get a little bit grey overhead and I was a little bit worried at this point whether we'll actually be able to harvest the apples at all, but the dahlias are looking pretty, so that put a smile on my face. It seemed to be a little bit late this year, am I right? But the apples are absolutely prolific this year. Tell me if your apple tree is looking the same. I have heard actually that this year is what's known as a mast year, when you have a prolific abundance of fruits and nuts on specific trees. I've only really noticed it on things like the hawthorn, lots of berries as well. But yeah, my apple tree having a great year. My little helper just watching from the sidelines. And then the clouds got grey and the rain started to arrive, which was very annoying because I'd only just got all my tools ready to get started. I thought, oh, it would just be a little bit of drizzle, but no, it got heavier and heavier. Anybody for apple bobbing? So Dylan and I took shelter in the shed and spent a little while in there for it to blow over. He stayed inside for a while whilst I continued to harvest the apples. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I don't know the exact variety of this tree because it was here before I got the allotment, but I think it might be a Cox apple of some description. It's also got a bit of a russet kind of skin, and whilst it isn't super sweet, it has like a slight sharp tang to it, so it's kind of nutty and sweet but with a little tartness. They're really quite unusual and delicious. But yes, this is what they look like, and got a lot of them to get. My baskets were soon filling up, and actually what I harvest in this video is only half of it. I had to go back on another day to get the rest. I'll harvest what I can by hand, but sometimes I need my special apple picker tool, which you might have seen in a previous video that I filmed a year or two ago when I first bought it, and I've started to get the knack now. It might have taken me a couple years, but if you just hover the tool over the apple and then actually shake it rather than pulling, that's the best way to get it off. And yeah, this is the Wolfgarten apple picker. It's one of those tools where you change the head, the attachment, and you just buy the pole separately. So I've got lots of different attachments for this one pole. Not an advert, by the way, but I do love them because it means it saves a lot of space in my shed. And this is all just fun and games, really. I feel like I'm at the fair every time playing hook-a-duck, but instead I'm hooking up my apples. It was at this point that I kind of realised I definitely need some more apple recipes because I can make a good crumble, and this year I'll be pureeing a lot of them for Dylan as he'll soon be weaning onto foods. But other than that, I don't make a few, many apple recipes. But the cake we'll be trying later on is one that's all new to me. But yeah, really excited to do a lot more baking. And I think I'm going to be freezing these in different methods, some grated, some chopped, some sliced, so I can do all sorts of things with them. But yeah, the majority of which, this lot, will be going in the freezer. I won't be juicing them. I have done it before. It does make a very nice juice actually. And I have also made cider before, but apparently you need a mix of apples to make the best cider, and it ended up being quite dry, not very sweet. But yeah, the apple juice you can get is actually really good. Still so many more to go. Well, that was about as much as I can carry back with me today. So Dylan and I packed up, and he was very excited to see what we were going to make with these apples. So it's time to take them home. Meanwhile, at home, the rain continued and the garden is starting to look very autumnal. The hostas are loving the rain and the garden on the whole is just soaking it all up. The amelanchier looks stunning with its red burgundy burnt leaves as they change. And I love the way the drops just bounce off nasturtiums. This is the haul overall. I haven't yet weighed them, but I might do that just now actually. Figure out just how much we have here. So this afternoon I'm going to be making a apple and walnut cake. It's going to be a loaf and it's not one that I've made before. It's not my recipe. I am absolutely not a baker. In fact, I'm pretty rubbish at it. But here we are. I will link the recipe that I did use down below. It's from a lovely lady's blog who I came across because I particularly wanted to find a recipe that used apples and walnuts. So it's a pretty standard recipe, I think. All your basics: flour, eggs, sugar, and then the nuts and some flavourings as well. So I started by weighing them all out, making sure there are no lumps. And I kept this recipe pretty much exactly as it was, by the way. The only thing I did change was the fat. So instead of using olive oil, I used butter, and I used 90 grams of butter in place of olive oil, which I melted in the microwave to make it nice and runny. I weighed out the walnuts and I gave them a little bit of a chop. I didn't want to chop them too fine because it is nice to have like a little nugget of nut when you bite into the cake. Just a nice little crunch to add to the texture. So I kept them quite rough, but put them aside and then moved on to the apples. And here I'm using my new tool. This is not endorsed or an advert, by the way, before I progress, but it's one I got from Pro Cook. And I've wanted one of these for a while, but I just couldn't justify it. But this year, with so many apples, I knew it was going to save me so much time in the kitchen peeling all those apples that I have. So it's actually an apple peeler, but it can also core and slice the apple into like a spiral. And you'll see at this point actually I move away the slicing element because I didn't want it to turn into a big spiral. So yeah, you turn the handle and it peels the apple in just a matter of seconds. Just like that. It's amazing. So I use this for my 3 apples. Probably not that necessary, but yeah, absolutely love it. And look, it's like a little beehive or something. Really easy to use, very mechanical, and it sticks down to the worktop, which I really like. It means it's not going to go anywhere. And then you end up with a lot of cool looking peel, which I bet you could sort of dehydrate them or pop them in the oven with a bit of cinnamon and crisp them up. That could be really nice. For this recipe you grate 2 of them but chop 1 of them into small pieces. So that's what I'm going to do next. They're probably about ½ a centimetre in width, and I kept them all regular so they cook nice and evenly. These apples I use for both cooking and eating, by the way. Again, I don't know what the variety is, but they're suitable for both. And at that point my son woke up from his nap, so I figured he might as well join in. He was very interested in the apple. So yes, we've got a mixture of grated and cubed apple. I'm going to add some cinnamon to a bowl, along with some baking powder and a little bit of salt as well. And then mix those together. In a separate bowl, I'm going to crack 2 eggs. These are nice free-range, medium-sized eggs. Into a bowl and then give them a whisk. and then added in the sugar and combined the two. Next I add some vanilla extract to the melted butter, and then mixed those other dry ingredients with the flour. I slowly worked in the wet ingredients and added the apple to the wet ones. Give it all a really good mix. At this point I thought, is that too much apple? I then added the flour in 2 batches because I didn't want it to become too clumpy straight away. So gradually added the flour, mixed that all in, and all that was left to add at this point is the nuts. So I just want to give that a really good mix so that the nuts go throughout the mixture. I then spooned it all out into a loaf tin that I'd previously put a piece of greaseproof paper in, so it'd be easy to get out at the end, making sure that it reached all the corners and is nicely levelled off, so it should bake hopefully nice and even. And then it went into the oven that was already preheated to 175 degrees, and then I gave it the little prick test where you put a skewer into the middle of the cake, and if it comes out nice and clean, then your cake is ready. Turns out that my cake only took about 40 minutes rather than the suggested 50 minutes. I gave it another check just in case, and yeah, perfectly clean. So here's the result, and from first impressions I'm so pleased. It's risen, it's got a nice golden brown colour, it's got a gorgeous crackle and texture on the top, and the kitchen smelled incredible. It was like a cinnamony, appley, autumnal smell. It was amazing. I left it on the counter like this for a while to cool, and I also moved it onto a cooling rack to cool a little bit quicker, because you don't want to take it out too soon, otherwise it might lose its shape. So once it had cooled down a bit, I moved it onto the cooling rack. And what a beautiful loaf. I'm not sure if it should have risen more than this, but that's what we've got and I'm happy. Oh yeah, side note, it became a birthday cake, so if you see any spots of wax like that bit of orange, just ignore that. But yeah, really happy with how it's sliced. You can see those chunks of apple and the nuts going throughout it. The texture was amazing. It wasn't too dry or too moist, despite actually I accidentally left 20 grams of flour in the bowl when I tipped it out. Didn't realise, but it didn't matter. It tastes so good. But for the final taste test, those little chunks of apple and the little chunks of nut really make this recipe. Yeah, it is just so delicious. There was just one thing missing though, and you know what that is? A good cup of tea. It's true, us Brits do love a cup of tea, and if there's a cup of tea and a piece of fresh homemade cake going, well, I mean, that's just like the perfect combination. So I think there was nothing left to do than to make myself a brew. A good old Yorkshire tea, currently on the decaf. Let it brew for a few minutes, add the milk. Always take the tea bag out before you add the milk. And yeah, ready to chill out, put my feet up and enjoy a hot cup of tea and my apple and walnut cake. Thanks for watching.